This is Mac OS Ken.
Apple Vision Pro news. Epic's headed back to court over Apple stuff. And Apple Vision Pro views. It is Tuesday, the 6th of February, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Guess who tried out Apple Vision Pro? If you said BofA analyst Wamsi Mohan, you must have been reading ahead. On Monday, Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote after he strapped into Apple's mellow version of the metaverse. Though he did note problems with Apple's headset that he deemed typical of first-gen devices, battery life and device weight specifically, the analyst wrote that the spatial computing paradigm is extremely unique, and we expect developers to unleash numerous apps over time to drive increased use cases over time. But enough about the magic and wonder. Get to the nickels and dimes. For the record, I hate getting to the nickels and dimes on this thing, but he's a financial analyst, so what are you going to do? Based on our assumptions, wrote Mohan, the Vision Pro hardware can add a total of 46 cents per share to earnings per share over the next 5 years. Going conservative on the services side, he and his think Vision OS apps could add between 22 cents and 43 cents per share over the next 5 years. Combined, that is somewhere between 68 cents and 89 cents per share over the next 5 years. Now, what I don't know is whether he's assuming the same $3,500 starting point 5 years from now that people who can pay it are paying today. Either way, he is the first analyst I've seen put any kind of numbers to Apple's spatial computing vision. Mr. Mohan has a buy rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $225. A surprising bit of news around Apple's headset to start the week. It'll actually work with Intel-based Macs. I mean, it'll work on its own. No Mac required, I think. But if you want to access your Mac using Apple Vision Pro and your Mac is Intel-based, a piece from 9to5Mac says it will work, though there are a couple of caveats. First, the Mac in question has to be running macOS 14 Sonoma or later, and second, won't be as crisp as it would be with an Apple Silicon machine. When paired with an Apple Silicon Mac, the report says Vision Pro shows a virtual display in resolutions up to 4K. However, while you can pair it with an Intel Mac, Apple says that the resolution is limited to 3K. Users can still resize the window, but it won't look as sharp as a virtual display running on an Apple Silicon Mac. Yes, okay, I did try out Apple Vision Pro yesterday. I'll share my thoughts on the experience and input from a couple of Mac OS Ken listeners a bit later in the show. Now, have you been hung up on there not being a YouTube app for Apple Vision Pro? Why? Also, it looks like one's on the way. Okay, let me back up. I guess there is a bit of a reason to be hung up on the issue. Not only has Google's video streaming site not made a native app for Vision OS, the company has also blocked access to the YouTube iPad app on Apple's FaceTop. It's like a laptop, but for your face. YouTube's not the only one to ice out Apple's head-worn computer. Netflix and Spotify have done the same, with each urging users to use Safari while using Vision Pro. Whether YouTube's had a change of heart or is just getting around to it, a piece from The Verge says the video site will make an app for Apple's special spatial machine at some point. Anyway, they say they will. YouTube spokesperson Jessica Gibby emailed Verge editor Nilay Patel saying, "We're excited to see Vision Pro launch, and we're supporting it by ensuring YouTube users have a great experience in Safari. We do not have any specific plans to share at this time, but can confirm that a Vision Pro app is on our roadmap." Now, if you don't want your Vision Pro to be a $3,500 paperweight, do not forget the passcode. According to a report from Bloomberg, Apple is telling users who forget their code, typically a series of digits, that they'll have to bring the device to a store or mail it to Apple Care customer support if they want to get it working again. Apple will then erase and reset it. What the heck? The report says when customers enter their passcode incorrectly too many times, the headset will be disabled. If users still can't recall their passcode after a waiting period, they'll need to send it back to Apple to be reset according to guidance given to the company's support staff. At that point, all content on the device will be erased. Can't people just log in with their faces like they can on iPhone? Oh, yeah, well, here's another issue. Bloomberg says the company's support staff also has been fielding questions from users struggling to set up Optic ID, an eye-scanning tool for logging into the device. They're also apparently having trouble with the built-in Apple Music app. Early days. All addressable with the software update. One imagines. Remember a few weeks ago when the Supreme Court declined to hear appeals in the Epic Apple case? That meant that, here in the States at least, while Apple would not be required to allow sideloading in third-party app stores, it would have to let developers let buyers and subscribers know that there were ways to pay outside of Apple's App Store, theoretically letting developers avoid paying commission to Apple. Except under Apple's amended rules, not only could developers not design that messaging any way they chose, they'd still have to pay Apple a commission. This left Tim Sweeney, Epic's CEO, somewhat cross and pledging to take Apple to court over the new rules. That brings us to last week, when a piece from 9to5Mac said Epic had gone and done and did it. That site cites a Bloomberg report that has Epic arguing that Apple hasn't properly complied with a court order to open its App Store to allow outside payment options weeks after its bid to resist those changes hit a dead end. 9to5Mac says Apple says courts have confirmed that it is entitled to charge a commission, that all developers benefit from the support the company provides through APIs and the like, and, rather randomly, that it doesn't charge anything if a user taps an external purchase link and, for some inexplicable reason, wait 7 days before buying the app. Okay, I'm not saying that Epic is right, but the compliance does seem convoluted. For its part, Epic says it's not compliance at all. The Bloomberg piece had Epic telling the court that it will explain the non-compliance in a forthcoming filing. Oh, I can't wait for this to be over. Apple appears to be working on a minor update, one that I'm guessing means a security fix for something is on the way. Mac Rumors says its own website analytics logs show evidence of iOS 17.3.1, which before this was not known to be a thing. Assuming it does come out, though the piece points out that there's no guarantee that it will, iOS 17.3.1 should be a minor update, according to Mac Rumors, one that addresses software bugs and/or security vulnerabilities. All right, we fooled around long enough. Yesterday, I asked folks who had tried Apple Vision Pro or bought Apple Vision Pro to let me know how it went for them and what they thought. Today, I will bring you thoughts from a couple of listeners, plus little old me. We start with Drew. Drew who? Drew who says, in part, been using the Vision Pro for 3.5 days and OMG, it's truly amazing. So many more things I'm learning, but it's beyond amazing. Despite the environments are made for Vision Pro videos, there's so much more, like your Mac becoming huge in front of your very eyes. Just incredible potential, and after you use it a while, you understand why the cost is what it is. I also heard engineers wanted to wait for a more refined version, but Tim did a Steve and pushed it out now to get ahead of the market. Once the battery lasts longer, weighs less, and is not so snow goggle looking, it's going to change the way we do our daily tasks. Just amazing and extremely intuitive. I also heard from my friend Barry. Barry who? Barry who says,
"Hey Ken, a quick note about the Apple Vision Pro. TLDR, it's insanely great. While it may need a long runway to get the price and size down, Apple has once again created something unique. While there is a tremendous amount of amazing tech, it's really how I interact with Apple Vision Pro that makes this revolutionary. From having screens floating in space to interacting with stunning 3D displays, it feels like I've been beamed into the future. I've always enjoyed taking pictures and videos. They're nice to look at, but the immersiveness with Apple Vision Pro makes it a very active experience. Looking at panoramas feels like you are there, and spatial video and the depth it brings elevates the experience to something fresh. It reinvigorates the computing experience. It has such potential in research, and I'm excited to see what developers and users will create."
So Apple has installed a den in the middle of my Apple Store. I've only seen the one, but I assume it's the same a lot of places. In my local Apple Store, there are 4 sort of corner couches right in the middle of the room. Each couch, made for 2, is sort of L-shaped with a wooden pedestal between the 2 seats. That is where Apple Vision Pro sits. The person who helped me taught me the gestures. They brought out the device. I put it on and everything was blurry and I couldn't get the thing to sit evenly on my forehead and cheeks. If this happens to you, do not muddle through. Complain. Let them know. Turns out what I needed was the dual band, which they had. When they brought it out, that is when the magic began. No, actually, the magic began before that. Though things were blurry to me, the eye tracking worked perfectly. I was able to calibrate and select in ways that I know worked, but it didn't make sense. So that was magic. Then I got the dual band, things got in focus, and the rest of it was just magic. There was a video of a kid's birthday party that, I'm going to use the term, blew me away. You're sitting right in front of a birthday cake, candles lit. The kid blows out the candles, and even though you know you're in an Apple Store, you don't understand why you can't smell the candle smoke and feel the air on your face. All of the 3D was mesmerizing, from the Alicia Keys rehearsal room clip to the clip of Avatar, The Way of Water, to the rhinoceros that seemed to be right in my face. The 3D was just incredible. Setting up multiple screens for multitasking was really impressive. Interacting with a web page in Safari was fiddly but impressive once I got used to it. In the past, I've been snarky about needing a new pair of AirPods Pro for the headset, but you don't actually need a pair of AirPods Pro. The sound was stellar, and apparently not spelling out much. What I wish I could have done was played on my own. While the associate helping me told me of the 600 apps in the App Store that had been written specifically for Vision OS, I got to see none of them. You're limited to the apps that Apple has built. I guess that makes sense, though. Apple knows that Apple's stuff works. As for not being allowed to play on my own, well, there were people waiting. You heard Barry and Drew talk about Apple Vision Pro's potential. No question. Before putting this thing on, I was convinced that we were at an iPhone moment. Now, doubly so. What developers are going to do with this is bound to be amazing. And what we do with what they do, the thing's just incredible. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go buy all of the lottery tickets. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.